Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Academy Countdown, where we look at all the movies nominated for Best Picture at this year's Oscars. My name is Zachary Trevino, and today I am joined by a very special guest.
Hi everyone, I'm Melissa Jorge.
What do you do?
I'm from The Runner. I'm editor-in-chief of The Runner.
All right, and today we are looking at F1. Now, to keep it completely transparent, the most F1 media I've ever consumed in my life has been the 2.5 hours that it takes to watch this movie. But I will be able to critique this movie on a film scale. But I do want to talk to you. I want to throw it to you because you are a big F1 person, right?
Yeah, I started following F1 towards like the end of the 2023 season. And from there on, I kind of just been keeping up with it.
So, I mean, you've been following it for a little bit then. So how did you feel when they first announced that they were doing a movie that was literally called F1 the movie?
Yeah, honestly, when they first announced it, I was so confused on what the movie's going to be about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I even have some like F1 friends, and we were like, but what's the point of this movie? Like, is it going to be about like actually F1, like a documentary type vibe? Or is it just going to be like people trying to be F1 drivers? It was a bit confusing in the beginning, so I'd say, I didn't know what to expect.
Now the movie's come out and it's done its course and now it's on the track to the Oscars. Mm-hmm. How do you feel? Because I feel like this took a very interesting approach to tackling a movie about a sport. How do you feel it did tackling F1?
Yeah, I feel like it did pretty good, especially I think something good they did was bring on Lewis Hamilton. Because obviously, I mean, having an F1 driver, being a producer is obviously going to help out with it being, make it look more realistic, you can say. Also, their approach of going to the actual races and filming there made it really realistic as well. It was a little weird watching it in real life because you're like, is that Brad Pitt just walking in the background right now? Or like Damson, you know? And it was kind of weird because they're like, what are they doing there?
Oh, so they would go and film at actual events?
Yeah, they would.
Wow.
Yeah. I actually, and then I found out they recorded during like the practice races, like their actual racing, when I went to the practice race in Las Vegas GP in the 2024. And my friend and I were like in the grandstands and we just saw APX in car and we were like, wait, they're literally filming right now.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's kind of an interesting approach they took with this movie because it's kind of like, it's almost like a creative nonfiction to where this movie is very much set in the F1 world that exists in real life. I mean, they talk about the likenesses of like the big names in the sport, but this whole movie, the main characters are all a part of this kind of different like brand or like racing company, and to where everything that follows like the main story is completely fabricated, but it's very much sold. Everything else is completely real. I mean, to the racetracks, the brands, the names. I mean, they're saying at the beginning they're talking about Lamborghini, Ferrari, Red Bull, like all the big names.
Yeah, I will say Lamborghini's not in there.
Oh, sorry.
But
I love it.
Yeah. The other ones are. But yeah, it is pretty realistic, like you said. I mean, the only other difference back then, too, was that they were the 11th team. Obviously, up until this year, 2026 is when there's 11 teams. But yeah, I guess that kind of gave us a little preview of like how it is to have a little bit more cars in there.
And so, for those uninitiated, this movie follows Brad Pitt, who plays this kind of older, like retired driver named Sonny Hayes, who had previously, like years before, had some success in Daytona, but then he is approached later by his like old partner, played by, oh God, what's his name? I forget his name right now. But he's approached by his old partner, and he joins his F1 team, and together it's Brad Pitt and his protege. What was his name? It is Joshua Pierce. And the two of them, it's very much a them against the world, a very classic underdog tale, which is very interesting, as we just talked about Marty Supreme, which is an underdog story taken askew. This is very much an on-track underdog story.
Yeah, definitely. I will say their comeback, maybe a little bit unrealistic. I don't know if a car is actually correct me if I'm wrong, obviously, but like I don't think a team's really went from 20th to like really being way up there really fast. Obviously, like McLaren has had like a comeback kind of like that, but not that bad. Because obviously, Sonny would get a lot of penalties to the point where JP might have not been going up there as much as he was in the movie. But yeah.
Yeah, and let's say I think the strongest aspect of this film definitely has to be the sound and the driving sequences. I mean, this movie, it almost gave me whiplash watching it. I mean, it's so high octane, it's so fast, and for a sport where that is the backbone of the sport, I do think they really succeeded in that regard.
Yeah, I think what made it easier too, though, was how like in the actual sport, the cars already have a camera integrated into their car of like how it's going, and us as a viewer, we can like hear the car, hear the radio and stuff like that. So I feel like they probably use the same, you could say like equipment that they use in the actual sport for the movie, and that's what made it sound so realistic and like you're in the car, basically.
Yeah, no, I mean, I watched this at home because this was also a very big movie. I mean, this was made practically for streaming. I mean, this was made as an Apple TV original, and so at home I had a whole surround sound system, and you feel it.
Yeah.
Like it was impressive.
Yeah, I know. When I watched it in the theaters, obviously I watched it when it came out, and yeah, it wasn't made for like the big old ones because it was just made specifically for Apple TV, so it was just in some theaters. But yeah, it did sound really cool. Like when the cars were driving by all fast, you can feel the room vibrate a little bit, obviously, as well. So it was pretty cool what they did with the sounds there.
And so, like I said, that was one thing I was very interested in learning about this movie and kind of doing some auxiliary research about the F1 sport. And this story very much utilizes a lot of like questionable rules in the sport. And so I was just curious like how you felt about that, about this being F1 the movie and having such like, how do you feel about the decision to have a main character that is so like defiant against like the F1 culture?
Yeah, it was a little weird because watching the movie, you're like, that wouldn't happen in real life. Obviously, I feel like that goes in a lot of sports movies, though. One thing being like him never getting his penalties, him never being out of the race after like crashing into someone a whole bunch of times, like in the beginning when he had crashing into Kevin Magnussen and stuff like that. Not listening to team orders. I mean, that's obviously happened, but like not to that extent where like, no, I'm not gonna listen to you at all. Him just stopping on the like, and when he's going into the box to change his tires, he's like, no, I'm not leaving until you guys like change my tires. Who would do that? I'm sorry, but like, I'm sorry, you're spending 11 seconds there just waiting. It's so crazy. So there was some parts where I was like, I just gotta like, just let it go by because it's just a movie. But yeah.
But I do think most of the acting does a pretty good job. I mean, I think the main interactions between Sonny and Pierce both do very good jobs. I mean, Pierce you have like as the kind of hungry younger guy who's just so wanting to get into this, but kind of being the laughingstock because Apex, the company that they're racing for, is very much like a nothing team.
Yeah.
And that's how it's structured in the movie. And so his dynamic between that and Sonny Hayes, Brad Pitt's character, the kind of like so just like not caring, but just so like letting everything just kind of brush off him. I thought that was an interesting dynamic to have for these kinds of things.
I agree. But I will say like in the sport as well, there are rookies, like you said, like JP and Joshua Pierce, where they're just like, they want to go all in and stuff like that. And yeah, they're losing all the time. But, they still have support from everyone. There's some sports drivers who may not be the best, but they definitely have a whole bunch of followers with them. As for Brad Pitt, there's obviously people who have way more experience who like left the sport for some reasons, but then came back. And they're still gonna have their whole fan base. Like there's this one part where someone was like, "Oh my gosh, Sonny, I love you," and he's just like starting off again, right? But yeah, that dynamic is pretty normal. within teams of like having a rookie and maybe like a more of like a veteran, I guess you can say, together, because the veteran teaches the rookie a lot of how to work the car and stuff like that. Like in the beginning, JP didn't really know how to tell the engineer what's wrong with the car, but Sonny, he was in that car for like 1 lap, 2 rounds, whatever, and he was able to tell the engineer what was wrong with it. So they kind of just help each other out. It's kind of like what the team principal wants.
Yeah. But now, while, I mean, all the acting and all the action is good, I will say, how did you feel about the story? I mean, it felt, a little stock standard to me personally.
Yeah, I liked the whole, like, of how they didn't like each other. Maybe at first he was a little wary, and then they came to, like, okay, wait, I know what Sonny's talking about. He's kind of actually helping me out. The only, maybe the love story for me was a little, like, did we really need that love story in there? Like, I liked the scene that, you know, she was a race engineer that's a woman, because that's a lot of representation going into, like, Formula One, right? Because not a lot of women get respect in Formula One, you can say. So that was really great. But then you bring in Sonny, who's a driver, and then she's falling in love with him, and it's like, oh.
She immediately just starts throwing herself.
So it's like that kind of backtracks a little on, like, the women there, I guess you could say, Formula One. But other than that, I would say it was a pretty good storyline, especially because I saw a lot of comments that were saying it went back to a storyline that actually happened in real life. They thought it was actually a documentary about that. Which was Lewis Hamilton and a previous partner he had on his team. So. Oh,
so this actually kind of mirrors something in real life?
Yeah. Oh. So that's why people at first, they were like, oh, maybe it's going to be a documentary about them too. But, I mean, obviously there are some differences. But, yeah. So it just, scenes that happen in there happen in real life. Like them two crashing into each other, that can happen totally. Like they're racing both from the same team going up against each other. That's totally normal. Because, I mean, who wants to lose to a teammate, right?
Because that was another thing I wanted to ask, because there was a lot of, like, teamwork being done in this movie. Because, I mean, there are points in this movie where Pierce is kind of running ahead of the pack and a little more in the middle of the film, and you have, like, Sonny actively kind of, like, sandbagging and, like trying to put, like blocking other drivers in the back. Is that how that works in Formula One? Like, is there some, like, team coordination that happens? I thought it was more like a solo sport.
So it's a team sport, but it's also a solo sport. It comes to a team sport, obviously, if a team is kind of lagging a little bit, because there's 2 types of championships someone can win. The team one and then the solo one. So the constructors is how many points as a team can you guys get together? You know how they were saying he has never gotten a point in the 2 seasons he's been in it, right? So they collect points as a team, but they also collect teams as just one driver themselves. So I guess it kind of depends where you're at in the situation. Like, obviously they know they won't win in the constructors, so they're like, okay, we're gonna risk 1 car so we can at least get 1 car to get some points. I don't know if that makes sense. So they're a team, but it also comes down to them being by themselves, I guess.
Oh, okay. So it's a little bit of a mix of both.
Yes, it's a mix of both, because they can win for either one.
And yeah, I mean, I thought, and with how high octane this movie is, I really think it did also a good job at kind of conditioning you to be used to all of this sound and commotion. But so whenever it takes it away, I mean, there's one big scene where it's just silent for like 30 seconds, and I felt it. It's just like you kind of are so used to so much sound and noise that when it's gone, it hits even harder. As hard as just like an explosion.
Yeah.
And that's where I thought where it wasn't just high octane. There was a little bit of like gravitas to this whole thing, where there was a lot of like measure being taken to all this.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that silence kind of like, as a viewer, you're like, yeah, that's how I would feel. Like, I can't hear anything. There's something tragic going on when he obviously, that accident happened, because that's what happens. Usually there's a moment of silence for any sport when something tragic happens, right? So I feel like that was a good incorporation of sound from the directors, producers.
And so moving to the kind of awards aspect, because I mean, like, this one was probably one of the most contentious movies to be named in the Best Pictures list, but at the end of the day, this one is one of the 10 movies nominated for Best Picture this year. And so I was going to say, like, how do you feel, like, what aspects of this movie do you think are award worthy?
I feel like the aspects of like the dedication it went into it, like I mentioned, they literally filmed at the racetracks. They made a whole Instagram account, a Twitter account, everything. I thought this is why the movie was so confusing on what it was going to be about, because they were making social media pages and everything, and we're like, wait, so what's going on? How is this movie going to work out? They didn't even use none of that for the movie.
Oh yeah, so how was the marketing? I mean, did this have like a lot of marketing?
A lot of marketing. They'd have people going to actual races in their merch and everything, obviously. They were at the actual races filming. That's more promotion. They had an Instagram. They had a social media account. They were talking to fans back. People were creating like fan pages for their teams. Every race, they'd be like, yeah, Sunny, P10, or like Sunny just got points, or like JP just crashed. And it's like, they're not even in the race, but they're updating us about what they think they'd be in, you know?
That's so interesting.
I feel like their marketing was really good, honestly, because it made me want to go watch it a little bit more. But yeah, picture-wise, I think they did a really good job with like how the cars actually look in real life too, making their own car. Like you said, the brands were all there. I mean, they're filled with branding all over, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that's how they got their money too, because of all the people they were giving promo to. But yeah, I think it was pretty realistic to the point. That's why I think it was nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, and that was something I could definitely tell, is that like this movie, I mean, you call a movie F1 the movie, you got to make sure it works for the fans, and I definitely think that they kind of did their due diligence to kind of make sure this was a movie for the people that this is their life, like, I mean, that love this stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it brought in some new fans as well, because there's obviously other shows like Drive to Survive, which they kind of made fun of in the film, which is so funny because they do say, people who watch F1, oh, you're like a fake fan. And then the guy who was there, like, yeah, he just watches Drive to Survive. He's like, yeah, I just watched it all. He's like, I know nothing about the sport, though. And it's so funny because that's what they're kind of known for. But yeah.
But yeah, like, I mean, personally, going back to the awards, I think this movie, where I feel like a lot of movies have been like actor-led, I think this movie was very much tailored to all of like the sequences and all of the set pieces and all of just like really taking the extra mile to ingratiate its watcher into a world that like a lot of people who are watching this movie wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I definitely think it was welcoming. As someone who doesn't know anything about this subject matter, it was very interesting.
Yeah, and like I said, I think what really helped was having like Lewis Hamilton there, for sure. I'm pretty sure he doesn't want a movie called the F1 movie and him being the producer to come out with a movie that's like going to be nothing about F1, you know? He's a well-respected driver in Formula One, in the motorsport world, so I think seeing his name on there as someone who also follows F1 was a bit reassuring that it wasn't going to be a horrible movie. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I can attest, it was not a horrible movie.
It was not horrible.
I would say. Yeah. Well, I think that's about all time that we have. So I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their day to watch the Academy Countdown. My name has been Zachary Trevino.
And my name is Melissa Jorge.
And that's a wrap.